Somewhere along the way, we started confusing poverty with holiness. But what if staying broke isn't spiritual? It's actually holding you back from your calling. If you're a pastor or a ministry leader, this might be the most important financial message you hear all week long. Because today we're going to dismantle this dangerous lie and replace it with a biblical truth that could set you and your family on a whole new path. You see, there's a deeply rooted belief in church culture that money and ministry don't belong in the same sentence. And I get it. We see Jesus say the Son of Man has no place to lay his head, or we read about Paul making tents to fund his mission, or writing that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. We see the church in Acts selling possessions and giving to the poor, and all of those are real, but somewhere along the way, we have twisted these examples into a doctrine. And we believe that being broke somehow makes us more faithful, more spiritual, more like Jesus. But here's the truth. We're not called to be poor. We're called to be prepared. And preparation includes your finances. If we zoom out, the Bible tells a very different story about wealth and calling. Abraham was incredibly wealthy, and his legacy blessed nations. Joseph stewarded an empire's finances, and he saved the world from famine. David left so much wealth behind that he paid for the construction of the temple before Solomon ever even laid a stone. Even Jesus had wealthy supporters funding his ministry, according to Luke chapter 8. In the book of Proverbs is practically an investments manual. Wisdom, savings, inheritance, it's all there. And then there's Paul, that same Paul who made tents, also said, I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Paul didn't condemn wealth. He just knew how to handle both seasons, plenty and lack. That's what biblical stewardship looks like. Not avoidance, not fear, and not shame. Now, let's get personal for a moment. What actually happens when pastors believe the lie that staying broke is somehow holy? Well, you live with chronic stress. You avoid rest because you can't afford to take a Sabbath. You feel guilty for desiring more, for wanting margin, or for planning for the future. So you say yes to every opportunity, not because God called you to it, but because you need the paycheck. And I've been there. I've stressed over bills while preaching peace. I've talked about faith while quietly worrying about my family's future. And it doesn't make you more spiritual. It just makes you more exhausted. Jesus didn't rebuke people for having money. He rebuked them for worshiping it. Now, here's what I believe now, and what I teach every pastor that I coach. Financial peace isn't a luxury for pastors. It's a leadership tool. You lead better when you are not stressed about money. You serve better when you don't feel desperate. You give more freely when you have margin. Imagine this with me for a second. You build a second stream of income, not a business that's going to demand 20 plus hours a week from you, but a simple seasonal stock strategy that takes maybe 15 minutes a week to implement. You use that to pay off debt, to build savings, to support your ministry needs without touching your salary. Now you can say yes to the right things, not to everything. You can bless others in secret. You can take your spouse on a trip or invest in your kids' future. You can model wise stewardship to your congregation. That's not greed. That's freedom. And it's absolutely possible. So here's what I want to leave you with. You weren't called to survive. You were called to steward, to multiply, and to lead. Let's stop glorifying lack and let's start embracing wisdom. Let's stop confusing struggle with sanctification. Let's lead with peace, not with panic. And if this message resonates with you, do me a real simple favor that will mean the world to me. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, give me a follow, and then visit www.stocksforpastors.com to learn how you can start building a second stream of income today. You don't have to stay financially stuck. Freedom is just a few steps away. It is cheaper and more accessible to you than you probably realize. So go to that website and I will see you there.